I can round to the nearest 10. Rounding means you say what is this number close to or about. A key thing to rounding is place value, so a quick little review here. You have your thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones places, where thousands is worth the most. 1,000 equals 1,000 ones, and 200s would equal 200 ones, and 3 tens would be 30 ones, and 4 ones is just 4 ones. Each one is kind of a factor of 10 more than the other. And a lot of times in rounding, we kind of look to the right to figure out what to round to, what's it closest to. So you have thousands, then hundreds, then tens, then ones. This number would be read 1,231 or 34. Here are some examples of rounding. 31 is about 30, and 39 is about 40. They are close to the numbers they round to. Now, how do we figure out this rounding? Well, let's look at 22. 22 is about 20. Why is that? Well, you have 22 on this number line. You can see 10, 20, 30, 15 over here, 25 there. And then these little dashes, 21, 22. So here's 22. It's about 20 because it's the closest 10. You don't go all the way to 10. You go just to 20. Just a little bit below it is 22 goes down to 20, so it's about 20. Whereas 26 is about 30, because 26 is over here, and it's a little bit closer to 30. So you would say 26 is about 30. I mean, that's basically the essence of rounding. When we round to the nearest 10, you look at what 10 is it closest to. So 22, it's going to be closest to 20, and 26 would be closest to 30. How do you develop a sense of rounding? Really, you need to practice, and you can learn some tricks that will be helpful as you're practicing initially. Let's take a look at 178. First, we need to identify what place we're rounding to. Well, for the sake of this lesson, this learning time, we're rounding to the tens, which in this case, there's a 7 there. What two tens is it between? So I've drawn a number line here. You can see it's between 170 and 180. And in between there you'd have 171, 172, 173, 174, 175, 176, 177, 178. So right here is the number we're looking at. 178, 179, and then finally 180. Well, which one is it closer to? If you just look at this number line and say you draw a pretty accurate one, you can clearly see, oh, it's almost 180. So you would say that 178, and I'm going to use this little arrow to indicate rounding, is about 180. And that's how you round. Number lines are a great way to be able to tell, oh, is it closer to this 10 or to this 10? And note, we start out with two choices. It was either going to be 170 or 180, because 170 would be a lower 10, and then 180 would be the next higher 10. You get these choices from looking at that tens place. It was a 7, so if I kept that the same, it'd be 170. And then if I increased it, it would be 180. So you either kind of keep that tens digit the same or increase it. $55 is an interesting number because you can see on this number line, here's 50, here's 60, 51, 2, 3, 4, 5, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. It's actually right in the middle. There's a special trick or rule for this. If the number is in the middle, we round to the higher choice, or it's called rounding up. We round up. So 55 actually rounds to 60. Now, don't get confused with the term rounding up. Rounding up does mean your tens place increases. But rounding down, your tens place doesn't actually change. You're going down from, say you were at 54, you'd go down to 50. But you're not actually like changing the tens place. That 5 would still stay the same. Let me kind of show that to you here. You have 54, that would round down to 50. And you can see the 5 stays the same and that 4 just turns to a 0. Alright, here are some tips and tricks for rounding. I'm going to go over them and then we're going to do it with the number 12. First thing you need to do is find the rounding place, whether it be the tens or the hundreds or whatever. In this case, we're looking at the tens. Then find your two choices. Remember before we looked at 50 and 60, 170, 180. Find those two choices, the tens on both sides of that number. Look one place to the right of the rounding place. So if you're in the hundreds, you look to the right. At the tens, if you're in the tens, you look to the ones. In this case, we're going to be rounding to the tens, so we're going to look at the ones at this step. Then we have to make a choice. Is that ones place? Is it 0 to 4? That means it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. If it's 0 to 4, hit the floor. So you go to the lower number. If it's 5 to 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you climb the line. You go to the higher number. Again, say it with me. 0 to 4, hit the floor. 5 to 9, climb the line. Let's do that with 12. First, let's find the rounding place. So we look here, we have ones and a 10. We have a 10 and two ones. So we look to our tens digit. We have a 1 there. Find your two choices. So my two choices would be the lower 10 would just be 10. And the higher 10 would be one more than 10 tens. One more than 1 10, so it would be 2 tens or 20. So you just kind of count by tens here. 10, 20. That's it. My answer is either going to be 10 or 20. Look one place to the right of the rounding place. Look one over, and there's a 2. All right. Now we got to take this 2 and the 1s and compare it to our little chart here. 0 to 4, hit the floor. 5 to 9, climb the vine. Well, 2 is between 0 and 4, so I hit the floor, meaning that I'm going to choose the lower of the two numbers. So 12 rounds to 10. It's about 10. I can round to the nearest 10. Round these numbers to the nearest 10. I want you to list both choices, then pick the correct one. So, 17. What would the low choice be and the high choice be? 152. Don't forget you're only looking at the tens. You're not looking at the hundreds. So this 1 is going to kind of tag along with you. And then 75. I want you to round both of them, all three of them, to the nearest 10.